Let's talk for a moment about the difference between joy, happiness, and pleasure.
That's a very important distinction, Regina, because they're often used as synonyms and they're radically different from each other. So joy is the ecstasy of the present moment. It's watching a sunset, while you're engaged with the sunset, maybe kissing your beloved, it might be just playing a sport, running a 100-meter dash or whatever, but you're totally focused and present to the moment. And that's what joy is. Joy is living completely in the present moment. It's really kind of like a Buddhist or a Hindu notion in the now, but that doesn't last ever. And so then the reason it doesn't last is we shift our attention. We are no longer in the now. Most of us are using the now, in order to kind of dredge up old memories, which make us angry or guilty, our future possibilities, which make us anxious and afraid. So we're constantly hijacking the present moment, for the past and for the future. So joy is the ability to be in the present moment and to totally savor whatever is happening right now. And that can be anything. It's not just pleasurable kinds of stuff. Being present to your pain even is a well-known way of actually transcending the pain, and identifying with, not with your spacesuit, but with your soul, your spirit in the spacesuit. So joy then is this ability to be totally present to the moment. And most of us abandon that very quickly. Pleasure is absolutely just a neurological activity. All mammals are programmed to habituate to pleasure. So, I love, I love chocolate and stuff. So my favorite ice cream is rum raisin ice cream. I could eat it by the tub load. But after the second or third tub, I don't want to see rum raisin ice cream anymore.
Yeah.
So every single mammal is actually habituated, habituates to any kind of a pleasurable activity. And so addiction then is attempting to satisfy the pleasure principle by having more and more frequent and bigger doses of whatever it is that I think is giving me pleasure. Yeah.
Okay, so that's a problem.
That's a huge problem.
To a point when you have when your life has such easy access to the things that give you pleasure that you have to keep upping the dosage, upping it and upping it. And I think that gets into what happens a lot of times when we think of some of the people that have made it really big early on in life, say Hollywood stars, where everything's made available. They can experience anything they want. They can afford it. The people will provide it. And then you say in the book, to satisfy that chemical response, you have to up it. You have to up it. So it has to be a higher dosage of whether it's sex or drugs or whatever. It just has to keep going up. So you're saying we're hardwired toward this if we can get our hands on it.
Every single mammal, it's not just human beings. Your kitty cat, if you want to scratch her belly, she wants more and more scratching in the belly.
Right, that's true.
Right? And so every mammal is actually neurologically wired to habituate to pleasure. So it's never going to last. And so we either have to do it more frequently and up the dosage, and then we become addicted to a substance or relationships or whatever. Now, it's interesting that Hinduism has actually a great hit on this. Hinduism claims that there are kind of 4 series of incarnations that happen to a soul on this journey to enlightenment. So the first series of incarnations have to do with the pleasure principle. And the Hinduism says there's nothing wrong with that if it can be controlled and done well. There's nothing wrong with good wine or good sex. They'll teach you the Kama Sutra to enjoy sex more or whatever. So they say there's nothing wrong with that as long as it doesn't dominate your life. But after a certain number of incarnations dedicated to the pleasure principle, you move into the second level, which is a kind of a fascination with power, privilege, and prestige. Now, these are the kind of people then who become psychopaths and who become, addicted to power and to control over others. And where the pleasure principle only creates problems for myself or my immediate family, if I overindulge, the power principle creates literally global problems, because people who get to that stage, and they're very often pathological, are going to exercise that power to control the resources and everybody else. So, but after a few incarnations in that, the idea is that you'll go beyond that and realize there's nothing wrong with power as long as it's self-empowerment and the empowerment of others, as long as it's not control and domination of others. But at some stage, Hinduism says you're going to realize there must be a place beyond power, privilege, and prestige. And that is the service principle, the realization that we're all bite-sized bits of source and that we have to look out for each other. They're the kind of Mother Teresas of the world who are picking little babies off the streets of Calcutta and loving them and feeding them. So service is the third series of incarnations. But even that is an illusion, because it's predicated on the notion of separation, that we can only be compassionate to others if we believe that they're separate from us. So the final stage of reincarnational process is a moksha, what they call moksha, liberation, a kind of liberation from the notion that we are separate from God, that we're separate from each other, and that we're separate from nature. So Hinduism gets into this notion as well that, pleasure, and power, these things, they're pitfalls, they're illusions that are going to trap us. And so the third stage then that you asked about was happiness. And happiness, very simply, is being aligned with the purpose for which you incarnated. Happiness only comes from that. And that means that you have to be able to harvest every occurrence in your life, every relationship in your life, and every event in your life for spirituality. So it is the realization that when you cleave to what you came to do and you align with that purpose, you're going to be a very happy camper. Even if you're in pain, even if bad things happen to you, you'll be able to harvest every single one of these things for spiritual purposes. So that's the difference then between just mere joy, mere pleasure, and happiness.
If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And you might also want to consider joining Patreon, which allows me to keep all of this content free and available to everyone. And if you're looking for like-minded souls, you might also enjoy my online community called Our Neighborhood. Links to join are in the description.